Yo, 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 what up, what up, what up? Y'all already know who it is and what it do. And we back with another one. Louisiana mayor. Damn. What these teenagers got that you can't find nobody that's around your age to do what you trying to do. And then on top of that, like what you got going on to where you gotta do this in public with somebody that's not your age, around your age. Then what's crazy is around family. I ain't gonna hold you too much longer. Let's get into it. Let's get into it so we can talk about it. Mm. Alright, hold on. We're having some difficulties.
A bikini clad small town mayor crosses the line in a major way, inviting a group of teens over for a pool party where she gets them drunk. But that's not all. She then takes a 16-year-old boy upstairs and rapes him as other teens, including her own kids, watch on in shock and horror. Now, her own children's testimony is being used against her to put her behind bars for years to come. This is Scandal, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Sierra Gillespie.
What up, Scandal?
We've got a
Shout out
change
to
of pace
Scandal.
for you here on Scandal today. Instead of a bad teacher, we've got a bad mayor. And I can skip saying allegedly too because
We talked
it's
about
a
the
done
teacher
deal.
already.
She's
now.
been convicted of raping a teen boy, a friend
Right.
of her own son, at a pool party in summer 2024. And that detail is horrific, but I've got so many more for you, including the texts that she sent to her own children after the rape, telling them, quote, lie till you die. And there's testimony from the teenage victim himself, who told a packed courtroom, quote, I said, get off of me. After we had sex, I kind of was realizing what was happening. If you're interested in cases like this one, we're talking top true crime news, body cams, interrogations, and deep dives into some of the most scandalous of cases, then make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss anything. Now, onto the case of Misty Roberts. Today's scandal takes us to DeRidder, Louisiana. It's a small city in western Louisiana. It's not too far from the Texas border. Back in 2018, DeRidder made history, electing their first ever female mayor. And that mayor was Misty Roberts, who also happens to be today's defendant. And Misty's history with the city of DeRidder runs really deep. She was born there, she graduated high school there back in 2000, and after finishing up college, she moved back to DeRidder again. So it's safe to say she's a lifer. And for years, she worked alongside the city's mayor. That is until 2018, when she decided to run for the seat herself. She won that election back in 2018 and then later was re-elected for a second four-year term in 2024. And by all accounts, Misty was really dedicated to her city. Back in 2024, she told the Best of Southwest Louisiana magazine, quote, I've always been real and raw. I'm not a very good politician. I never pictured myself doing this, but when the former mayor was leaving, I had to choose between continuing the good work we had done together or letting it all end. I knew going into this job that it was 24/7, 365. It's constant, whether I'm in my office or not. I don't know that the public necessarily knows that, but it is. And I wanted to specifically include that quote in today's episode because it's very ironic given the charges that Misty has now been convicted of. Remember all of this. She said she's not a very good politician. She also said she's a mayor 24/7, even when she's not in her office.
Right.
Interesting. Keep that in mind. Now, in this same interview, Misty also mentioned her children, saying they are the most important things in her life. She said, quote, "My children come first. There is no balance. No one can juggle it all. If there's a field trip, I'm on it. If they need a chaperone, I'm going. I tell my staff all the time, this office will be here tomorrow, but your kids will grow up." And this is the last quote I'm going to leave you with before we move on to what Misty is eventually convicted of. This quote is particularly ironic. She said, "I'm looking forward to serving the great city of DeRidder. We have an incredibly safe community with great things to do. It's a great place to raise a family, and I'm proud to be part of that." The mayor herself calling the city of DeRidder incredibly safe. She called it also a great place to raise a family. But what if it was the mayor herself who was the real danger? And that brings us to the incident that happened back in July 2024. Misty threw a pool party at her home with lots of underage kids, including her 2 children, a son and a daughter, her nephew, and the teenage victim who was only 16 years old at the time. And I'm not going to identify this victim's name because he is just that. He's a victim. He's a survivor of a really serious crime. So I'm just going to call him John Doe for the sake of our episode today. John Doe told investigators he was eager to go to this party. He knew that there would be drinking, and he said he reached out to his cousin asking if she could secure some drinks for him. And at first she says, yes, I totally can, but then later she says she can't get him any. So John Doe shows up to the party completely sober and empty-handed. But when he got there, another kid at the party pointed him to the fridge saying, "Hey, take whatever alcohol you want." John Doe later testified he asked this kid, "Are you sure?" And the other teen replied back, "Yeah, it's for all of us." Now, I want you to remember this party takes place at the mayor, the serving mayor, Misty Roberts' home. And I can't say for certain who purchased this alcohol that was in this communal.
Oh. Oh. Whoa. You got the party going at your house? Oh, that explains why you felt so comfortable doing what you were doing then. You was at home. Mm. Yeah, you was in the comfort of your own home, so you felt like you could just do that. I can imagine that that's what you thought or felt, and that nothing was gonna be said or done about that, cause you're the mayor, right? Shit.
Fridge, but I can say for certain that Misty Roberts knew that these children were drinking. And on top of that, Misty herself had been drinking since about 3 o'clock that day. By the time John Doe arrived to the pool party, he testified that she was already, quote, really, really drunk. So feeling he's behind the 8 ball, John Doe says he drank a bunch just to catch up. Later, he says he drank
Hold on, wait a minute. So, is there a potential chance that you knew that this what you up to, and this is what you gonna do? You were trying to get them drunk so they wouldn't know what you did or what was going on. You provided the alcohol for this. Like, what we got going on, man? What you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You the mayor of the city. Damn. Dang. Oh, there's some trash stuff going on out here. That's just trash. Hmm. Sorry, but not sorry. That's trash. That's trash. I can say.
so much, he started to feel sick. He felt dizzy, and eventually he even threw up. At some point during this party, John Doe and Misty ended up by the pool together. According to the local TV station KPLC, John Doe testified, quote, I just wasn't comfortable around older females at the time. But even still, Misty began talking with him. He said, at the time, I didn't realize she was actually flirting. John Doe says now he realizes that Misty was flirting. She was telling him things like he looked really good, she was winking at him, and she even danced on him. Later, she asked to take a photo with him. Eventually, John Doe testifies they start kissing by the pool, and this happened for a while. That is, until Misty stopped kissing him, saying they shouldn't be kissing outside in the public. John Doe later testified he asked if they should go inside and go upstairs, and Misty agreed. Once they were upstairs, Misty started asking him questions. She said things like, "What made you choose me?" And John Doe told her, "I thought maybe you've been flirting with me, so I kind of engaged with you, and that's why this happened." So Misty told him, "Hey, if anyone asks anything, say that I brought you upstairs just to cool you off with all of the flirting." But that's not really what happened. According to John Doe, he took off Misty's top and then pulled down his pants, and then Misty raped him. And I want to pause really quickly to note, they could not have had consensual sex at this time. Not only is he intoxicated, but also Misty was an adult at the time, and John Doe was only 16 years old, so this was rape. About all of this, KPLC reports that John Doe testified, "I was kind of dizzy. I had to put my hands on the couch. My eyes were just like closed." He went on to say, "While it was happening, I couldn't feel my body." After it was finished, John Doe testified, "I said, 'Get off of me.' After we had sex, I kind of was realizing what was happening." That's when, according to John Doe, Misty asked, "Is that a phone?" pointing toward the window. And it turns out that Misty's 2 children and her nephew were watching the entire encounter, with Misty's nephew lifting up his phone to the window to see what was going on. Now, her nephew later testified he wasn't sure if he recorded any photos or videos of this sexual encounter. He said that it was on Snapchat, and he's since deleted his Snapchat history. So jurors didn't actually see any video or photos of this rape, but they did hear from Misty's daughter, who testified that she saw her mom and John Doe, quote, "on top of each other." After the rape, Misty got in a heated argument with her son. According to testimony, Misty told him, "Go fight your friend. He's the one who did it." About the fight, John Doe testified, "She was trying to get him to fight me. She was trying to get the blame off herself." John Doe says he was so upset about this and so uncertain, so he just went to his truck to kind of sit down and cool off. And around this time, Misty's nephew approached him and said, quote,
So they were watching it the whole time. What did you, what you did was kind of messed up, but it's her fault. That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh, they was watching. They was at a window, so you didn't even. You just went inside the house thinking you were gonna be shielded from it, and they were watching the whole time. Crazy work. That's crazy work. You tweaking, lady. This is show tweaking.
"What you did was kind of messed up, but it's her fault."
Mm.
After the incident, Misty made a DoorDash order having Plan B emergency contraceptive delivered to her home. And this was noted at trial. The DoorDash delivery driver actually testified he's the one who picked up the Plan B and delivered it. And he said he recognized the home because he took his kids trick-or-treating there. Now, according to prosecutors, John Doe's own mother later texted Misty, making sure she wasn't pregnant. So Misty told her, "Yeah, I'm on birth control," and later screenshot these messages and sent them in a group chat with other friends who suggested she take Plan B. Now, other texts were also shown at the trial, showing Misty texting her kids things like, quote, "Lie till you die." Misty also texted her ex-husband, the father of her 2 kids. She told him, quote, "I effed up, and I respect you enough to tell you." In another text from Misty, she wrote, quote, "I can't keep hurting others, friends and family. Lord knows I've done enough." Jurors saw other texts too between John Doe and another teen boy. Now, this boy had started dating John Doe's ex-girlfriend. He sent him a taunting text saying, "Couldn't tap that," meaning his ex-girlfriend, "so you got to tap the mayor, right?" John Doe replied, "Low-key kind of disrespectful, but I tapped that too." In the days following the pool party and the rape, the authorities got involved. The investigation began on July 26, 2024, when the Louisiana State Police opened up an investigation, and the following day, Misty resigned from her post as mayor. On August 1st, 2024, Misty turned herself over to the
Look like she got a problem. Look at that mug shot. I don't even think that's no mug shot. Yeah, that's she in the suit. Look like something mentally wrong with it. But you the mayor though, how? How you the mayor and you doing this? You sick. You sick. Just like that teacher. Sick. What's wrong with y'all?
authorities and she was arrested. Ultimately, she was charged with carnal knowledge of juvenile, meaning statutory rape, and indecent behavior with a minor. Now, she ended up pleading not guilty to the charges, and the case went to trial just this year. It was on March 3rd when a jury of her peers returned a guilty verdict. She now faces a combined total of 17 years in prison. All right, those are the details. These are very disturbing. This case, we've got a really interesting one today, and I want to try to make sense of it. So let's bring on our expert guest. It's trial attorney Bryce Hensley. Bryce, it's great to have you back on Scandal to unpack this kind of sordid case. And I know how it ended. We have a conviction, which we'll get to in a minute, but let's start winding the clock back. The allegations at first that we have a mayor who raped a child. Now, you and I have talked many times about a teacher who has done this to a student. It's not quite the same, but is there still an abuse of power here?
I think there certainly is. I mean, from what I understand, what took place was there was a party that the mayor was hosting at her home with underage children who were drinking. From there, the children, of course, became intoxicated, and the mayor, who's a parent, took advantage of the situation with an underage child and proceeded to have sexual relations with them in her own home, with people seeing them at least going up to the room together, and there being corroborating evidence that this took place.
And you mentioned this too, the fact that setting aside the rape allegations, now she's been convicted of this, the rape, there was underage drinking at a party that she was hosting. And if I wind back the clock in my mind, I'm from the Midwest, so this was a barn party. There was a teacher at my school who was convicted of providing alcohol to students because that's illegal, because they're minors. So that at the very start, not good. That is, bad. But then on top of this, it begins with her kissing this boy at the pool in front of everyone else. To me, that's really brazen, at the very least, to be kissing him, a 16-year-old child, in front of everyone else. I mean, why do that so blatantly in the public?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head using the adjective brazenly. I mean, it's clearly she's acting with an air of impunity, right? She's the mayor of this town. She most likely is assuming that she can get away with just about anything. I mean, she's already hosting this party at her home.
Didn't I just say that? She felt like it was at her house. She's the mayor. Can't nobody touch her. Who's gonna lock her up? She's the mayor. You know what I mean? Yeah, that mentality right there ain't right. You know what I'm talking about? That's abuse of authority when you thinking like that and you got that type of power. You in that type of position. I'm not gonna say that type of power. When you're in that type of position, that's what I don't like.
And then you move to the brazen making out with a child in front of everybody, and then without any discretion whatsoever, bringing him up to a bedroom. I mean, the whole situation just reeks of an abuse of power, somebody who thinks they have more than they actually have, somebody who thinks they're immune from the consequences of their actions.
And I researched this a little bit too. It's kind of a small town in Louisiana. I'm sure she was very well known throughout the town. So we've got an abuse of power, number one. Number two, we have an adult and a child here drinking alcohol. Now, the child would later testify that he felt dizzy. He said he couldn't really even feel his body when the rape was happening. Like, he'd had so much to drink, he actually threw up. Is that an element in all of this too? The fact that he was way under the influence. I mean, he wasn't even old enough to consent, but let's say that he probably couldn't have because he didn't have all of his faculties about him. I mean, does that add to it too?
I think it certainly does. I mean, let's just call it what it is at the outset. Regardless whether he's intoxicated or not, it's wrong and it's criminal. But then you add the fact that he's intoxicated. I'm sure that plays a large role in the sentence that she's now looking at, is the fact that not only did she do this with an underage child, but she did it with an underage child who was intoxicated and who was intoxicated at her party, at her home. And so I think all of that culminates to create the sentence and the conviction that she got.
And I mean, primarily, it's paramount that this young child receives justice here. I mean, what he has to endure, the fact that this is a small town, we're not reporting his name, his testimony isn't out there. However, everyone in the town is going to know who this kid is. I mean, he has definitely an uphill battle, but so too do her children, because her kids were at the party too. And I was so shocked about this. So it was her two children, a son and a daughter. Then her nephew was there too. And there were these allegations that the nephew had his phone, kind of lifted it up to a window and was maybe recording it. But her daughter testified she saw them on top of each other. Her son testified too. And I'm wondering, I mean, is this a form of child endangerment or cruelty to children? The fact that her children witnessed her raping another child.
I think there's certainly elements of it. I don't think that there's anything that can necessarily be actionable under the law. I mean, I don't know at this point what her husband's course of action is going to be. But I certainly think that, just speaking generally, without actually putting a criminal label on any of this, it's certainly a form of child abuse. I mean, you're there in your own home. Your children are witnessing this. It's truly sick behavior from this woman, and she's now going to be spending a significant amount of time in prison.
I think you're so right. I mean, not only do we have the rape survivor here, who is the victim, but also her children and the nephew and all of the kids who were there who had to witness this. I mean, that's a lot of trauma following all of this. And by the way, there was a huge argument after all of this too between Misty Roberts, the defendant here, and her son. And it was interesting, according to testimony, she pointed the finger at the student, or the child rather, the rape victim here, and was like, he's your friend, it's his fault, go fight with him. She was almost encouraging her son to get in a physical altercation with his friend. That, to me, I don't know, that at least stood out. What do you make of that?
I think it's just classic victim blaming, and I also think it's at that point she probably realized the trouble that she was in. It is truly bizarre that she's sitting there arguing with her teenage child about this, but there are so many aspects of this story that are deeply disturbing. You touched earlier on the authority and the balance of power and all of that. There, if I remember correctly, there were also allegations of somebody in the picture basically threatening some of the children as well. And I think that level of coercion, it almost sounded like a code of silence, if you will. If you lie, you die type mentality. Yeah. That also factors into this psychologically for a lot of these people. I mean, not only are they hearing about this, not only are a lot of them witnessing it, which you referenced, there's the added element, the aggravating factor here of there being threats, explicit threats from adults to not say anything about this. So all of that is incredibly, incredibly concerning.
I think that brings so much strength to all of the children in this who came forward and eventually did sit down with investigators. They told everything. Later, they did testify, which we'll talk about in a minute, which I can't imagine testifying now as an adult, but especially as a child, having to testify about something like this. It's a very unusual and traumatic situation that they had to go through. But the threats here, I mean, I think the through line you and I keep talking about throughout this is that she thought she could get away with it. She's the mayor of the town. She can do whatever she wants. She's this beautiful woman. Anyone can have me. Okay, great. I'll take this kid. Like, it's just shocking. And before we go on to testimony, I have to ask about this. She DoorDashed Plan B to her house. This DoorDash driver actually testified about this. She ordered Plan B right away. And then according to testimony, the child victim's mom texted her about this Plan B. So the victim's mom knew about this. She's taking Plan B, aka, the day after pill, hoping that she doesn't, conceive a child based on this rape. That I don't even know what question to ask you except to say that I'm flabbergasted that she DoorDashed Plan B. What are you?
That's crazy work. But also, I feel like for her to even do something like that, she I don't feel like or think that this is something that just occurred. I feel like she's been doing this for a minute, way before she even becoming the mayor. I think her being the mayor probably intensified the fact of her doing it, meaning she felt much more untouchable and freely to do it versus not being the mayor and having to hide or sneak around and do it. If that makes any sense, but that's just me personally. I feel like what transpired. That's crazy work.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think this just adds to the level of impunity which she was operating under, at least the idea that she had in her head that it doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter who sees it. It doesn't matter what they see. At the end of the day, I'm the mayor. I'm the person in charge. I'm not going to be held responsible for my actions. And you made a really great point here that I think it's the children, I think it's the entire community here actually overcoming that and basically saying, no, 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 no. We're going to hold you accountable for what you're doing. So a credit to all of the people that came forward in this case.
Yeah, they have such strength and conviction of character to testify against somebody who was a huge pillar of their community. But again,
Right.
these allegations warranted, at least in my opinion. So there's a lot of evidence we've talked about, the witnesses, maybe a video that I guess got deleted, but it was there at a time. There's text messages, there's threats, there's the Plan B driver. There's so much going on here, a lot of evidence against her. So of course charges are brought. However, she pleads not guilty. It does eventually go to trial. I'm like, where does she get off pleading not guilty here and putting these children through testimony based on all the evidence that she knows that is against her? What are your thoughts on her pleading not guilty and taking this to trial?
I can't say one way or the other. Ultimately, that's a decision, it sounds like, that was made between her and her lawyer. Perhaps there were some discussions in advance of trial about her pleading, entering into what's called a plea bargain, where maybe she accepts certain terms for a reduced sentence. My guess here is that those terms weren't particularly favorable, especially with the mounting and overwhelming evidence that we've just talked about. You have so many witnesses that come forward. I'm sure the prosecutor was driving a pretty hard bargain, and I'm just making assumptions here, but chances are she had to take the case to trial. She couldn't, of course, admit being guilty, so I think the not guilty was just a factor of she had to try to take this case the distance to see if there was some way, shape, or form that she could get around it. But I also, again, I ascribed this a lot to this idea in her head that she had that maybe she could convince, maybe she could flatter a jury into dialing back the sentence or even siding with her. And the jury came through and delivered a verdict that I think was the right one.
I mean, this is an assumption here, but she is a pretty woman. She had a nice, job, pillar of the community, very high profile. So maybe she's used to, like we've been talking about, getting whatever she wants, getting away with things, flattering people by being flirty. That's something that happened here, or just, smiling because she's a nice looking, beautiful woman. But then when you hear the testimony from these kids, I mean, we saw the way that the jury ended up choosing. Obviously, it was hard to combat. And let's talk about that testimony, I've kind of skirted around it, saving it for now, because I'm shocked at the strength of these kids who had to testify. So it was her children who testified. Also, of course, the star witness would be the victim who was raped in all of this. How do prosecutors prepare to put a kid on the stand, number one, and then number two, to recount probably one of the most traumatic moments of their lives?
I think it takes a lot of preparation, and it takes, like you said, a lot of courage for anybody to come forward. I mean, testifying against your own parent is, I mean, I can't really imagine that, but credit to them for coming forward and doing the right thing. And you also referenced the victim. It is incredibly difficult for somebody to come forward that soon after a traumatic event like that. Most of the time, what we see with survivors of sexual abuse is they don't come forward for decades. They try to internalize it, they try to bury it, they try to move away, they do all sorts of things to try to cope with it. And for this victim to come forward as soon as they did, to testify at a trial about what took place in front of a group of people, in front of a group of strangers they've never met before, to talk about the most traumatic experience of their life, it's not something you see very often, and it's a massive credit to them and their strength to come forward and share what took place to make sure that justice was done. And again, a credit to all of the other people too that came forward and held this person accountable despite the position that she had.
I think you're right. We have to give so much credit to this child victim, to her children who had to testify. And again, I can't get past this enough. This is a small town. I'm from a small town. And if something like this happened, everyone would be talking about it. I know a lot of our viewers probably are from, I mean, a lot of people are from small towns. Everyone knows everyone. Everyone talks. Right. And especially when you're in high school, I put myself back in high school and think about that. If I had to testify and everyone is talking about this, I mean, it would probably feel like your world is caving in on you. So the strength of these kids, I'm astonished that they deserve all of the praise for doing something like this, because it's really, really shocking and difficult. And I guess I'm wondering about that, the victim's testimony. Do you think that's what clinched the win, so to speak, for the prosecution, the conviction? I mean, his testimony had to be pretty compelling.
I think so. I think it certainly was. I'm sure.
I don't think it's that shocking. I think y'all been knew that she was doing this, or they been knew that she was doing this, and just didn't say nothing because of the level that she was at. Yes, she was highly respected, but I feel like she was like able to do that, and nobody said nothing. So now that you're the mayor, they want to hold you to a higher standard than what they've been seeing you do. Like, this town been knowing this or been seeing something or something like that. That's the thing about small towns too. It's certain secrets and certain stuff that be going on that don't nobody say nothing about. And this I don't feel like it's nothing new. I just feel like y'all exposed it more because of the level that she progressed to.
Some of the defense arguments that came into play there would have probably focused, if they cross-examined him. I don't know. I wasn't there at the trial. I haven't seen how the trial proceeded, but the defense attorney may have tried to take some shots at the credibility given how intoxicated he allegedly was. I think it was the culmination probably of all of this evidence. I mean, if you start from the very end, you've got the delivery driver that you mentioned. You have her own children. I mean, one of the things that you always try to do on cross-examination, right, is you try to attack the bias of the witnesses. Hey, of course this witness would be testifying for this person. They're related. They're family members. They're her children. The fact that her own children were talking about this, I mean, that's a death knell, I think, to the defense case. But it sounds to me like there was an overwhelming amount of evidence. I don't know if any one piece or person sealed the deal, so to speak. I think the jury, more likely than not, was presented with a mountain for them to consider, and they did so beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, we always say the phrase overwhelming evidence, and I think in this case it kind of speaks for itself, especially when you talk about her own children testifying against her. I mean, I cannot imagine testifying against my parents as an adult. Again, they were kids and doing this. Plus, we've got the text messages, the
Yeah, that gotta be
Plan B,
hard though.
all of that leads to her conviction. And I guess this is kind of a prediction question for the last one I have for you. Sentencing. What goes into all of this? Because she's convicted now. She's still out on bond, by the way, which I thought was interesting. She's kind of at home doing whatever, but she now faces, quite a long time behind bars. So what goes into the sentencing and what kind of factors are going to be considered?
Well, I think the abuse of power is usually something that's taken into account. Louisiana is a little bit of a unique jurisdiction in some ways. I think the phrase that they use to describe what she did is carnal knowledge of a minor. It's just another way of saying statutory rape. And so I think a lot of it is going to be dictated by that fact, the fact that this was an adult with a minor. Louisiana does have, in my experience, favorable laws in this sense to convict people and to sentence people for longer.
Oh,
And
really?
so I think all of that goes into it. I think there
No.
are certainly going to
Wow,
be
that says a
aggravating
lot.
factors. Normally the
That that
defendant will have an
that says a lot.
opportunity to
That says a lot. Because now you're telling me that there are no laws that are in place for anything that take place like this. So she's the mayor. She gets to read over the laws and the certain things that are required or not required. So she knew that there was no law to hold her accountable for this. So now it's like y'all trying to make a law for it because she got caught. So apparently Louisiana felt like and didn't think that anything like this could happen in their city or state or towns or whatever. Like I'm trying to understand that because that's I guess I thought every state had something in place for something like this. That's just mind blowing to me that it's Louisiana don't. There's much go on out there.
address the court, address their sentencing. Again, this overwhelming evidence in this case, the threats that were going on and things like that. I think all of that is going to play a major role. I don't know there's a lot that the defendant here can say to mitigate what's coming. And so I would imagine that the sentence here will be pretty heavy, probably to the tune of well over a decade. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah, that's set to happen in April. So I guess we'll wait and see, come back and follow up on this case. I mean, in the meantime, I'm just thinking about the victim, the survivor here, and her children, and the entire town who has to come to terms with something that probably shocked all of them. It's a really interesting and kind of intense case. So, Bryce Hensley, thanks for coming on today and walking us through it.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Misty Roberts is due back in court on April 17th for her sentencing. And that is where today's episode of Scandal leaves us for now. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Scandal, please send them our way. Our tip line is scandal@lawandcrime.com.
Yo, this is crazy work. Definitely crazy work. Again, I definitely don't feel like that she ironically did this. I think it's something that's been going on for a while. Uh, feel like people been knowing. And I do understand that when you get to a certain level in life, being a mayor or something like that, definitely in a small town, people tend to change their perspective of what you can and can't do uh, based off the position you have or, you know, whatever. But I definitely don't feel like there's something that's new. There's never nothing new that's in a small town. I ain't gonna tell you. You might not know about it or what's going on, but it's happening and it have been happening. So yeah, until next time, I catch you later.